Good morning, friends. It's a just below freezing morning in northern BC, Canada. And I'm gonna take you along on a little day in the life. So far this morning, we have drank tea and we're working on a chronological Bible in a year reading plan. And we listened to it, so we worked on that. And then now we're out here to milk the cow. And I got a bunch of tiddly kitchen stuff to do this morning, and then I have a couple hours in my office. I have a couple Zoom meetings. I got a lot of emails to deal with. Some planning on upcoming things. Marius has school to do with the kids. He's their main homeschool teacher, so he's gonna be working on that. Anyhow, and then I gotta finish up on the stuff that I start this morning after I'm done in my office. And then I gotta milk again. And then it's dinner time, and then it's time to get little kids ready for bed. So it's gonna be a full day. But first, let's milk the cow.
Hair still crazy, Rowan?
So while I was sitting down on the bucket milking, and then you're like at a lower angle, right? I see that one of the steers who had been castrated has an open wound. It looks pretty fresh where his nuts are falling off. So, never seen that before. That's lame. I took his temperature. He doesn't have a temperature, so he doesn't currently have an infection. There is a debate. Do I give him antibiotics as a preventative? Because it's like muddy, gross season. I gave him a painkiller, Banamine. And then I just texted a friend like, ouch, that'll hurt. And she was like, oh, do you have any Repiderma? I do. This is a wound healing spray. We used this when one of our cows got bit by our dog on her udder. Anyhow, we're gonna spray this on. The calves live in here together. Anyhow, my friend thinks with the Banamine and the Repiderma, we should not need to give antibiotics, but I might need a kid to hold this calf still for me.
You're the one who made his back all sticky.
Yeah, I know I made his back all sticky because the Banamine, the painkiller, pours on their back. It's not an injection. He's on to me though. Whoa! He didn't like me doing that.
What'd you do?
He just kicked me.
Who kicked you?
Hefty, but he got the can. Oh, I almost got him good enough. It's hard because it's mud season, so like their house is dry, but out here, you know, it keeps being muddy. We keep throwing more bedding down. So that is more why I'm concerned about infection too, because it's just that melting, gross time of year.
No turkey legs this morning. But there's a hen sitting down.
Guinea fowl.
We're not getting guinea fowl.
2 guinea fowls.
I don't feel like guinea fowl destroying our garden.
I'll keep it in enclosure.
No. Okay, breakfast this morning, granola and milk or yogurt with maple syrup
And stevia.
or stevia.
Like every day.
In last video, I got quite a few questions about the wood cook stove in the comments, and I wanted to answer those all for you quick. The number one question was, how do you clean it? So I'm going to show you just a quick rundown on some of that, but also it's also kind of just self-cleaning when you think about the fact that like it's always on and hot. You don't really wipe it down that often. In cold winter, the stove is never really cold enough for me to wipe it down well, other than like a quick wipe of something. If anything, if there was something bad on the stovetop, it's cold right now, I could scrape it off, but really it burns off. And it's not that big of a deal. Right now, we're kind of in a shoulder season. We don't need to run the fire all the time. Marius stoked it up before bed last night. It was dead this morning because it didn't, get loaded for a cold night. And our house was 19 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, 68 Fahrenheit. So we didn't need to light the fire, and I purposely didn't light it so I could show you this stuff. So this is a polished steel top. So it's not cast iron that you have to season. I couldn't imagine having to try and season it. Also, when they talk about blackening stoves, ours also doesn't need that. It's the paint on it. I forget what it's called, but I don't need to polish it or do anything to the paint. When we first got it, I had to do just a few small fires for a few days to bond the paint to the metal properly. If I had just right off the bat got a good ripping fire going and kept it going for 24 hours, the paint could bubble and do funny things. So with most wood stoves, you're supposed to season them first anyways. I just have a couple wet cloths, well, one's wet on one end. And really it's as simple as just, you see dusty spots, wipe them down. And this is more about it looking tidy than functionality. So if you don't get to it, it doesn't matter. It's not gonna not work as well. As for actually cleaning the insides of the stove, there's a grate. So this stove can burn wood or coal. We don't have access to anthracite coal here, so we don't use it. If you're using coal, you would need to take off one of the grates that was in here, but it has instructions on that. So when it's cold, what I usually do is I stir around the ashes some, because there's a grate in the bottom, and then some of the ashes will fall down into the ash pan, so I don't have to scrape out all the ashes at once, because you do want a bit of an ash bed for a good fire. And then this is my ash pan. Needs to be emptied here pretty quick, but this is my ash pan. I've maybe emptied it once this winter. This stove is really efficient. You'll often see me in videos open up this ash pan to help get the fire roaring, and that is because then it helps draw up through there. That is the one con for this stove, is that it doesn't seem to draw well unless it's below -10 Celsius, which is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It could be because of our chimney. We have a super long chimney, but some people say that that would help it draw better. Our chimney is, I forget how, oh, I don't have the ash pan. Why are you not going in properly? There we go. I forget exactly how long our chimney is. I don't know, 25, 30 feet tall. It's really tall, but that's how tall it had to be to meet code. The pitch of our roof is very steep, so the chimney has to go beyond the pitch, and that's how that goes. Anyhow, so other parts for clean out. So these two lids, what's different about the Heiko is that it actually has a catalytic combustor. So right here, this is the catalytic combustor. It's got a bit of ash buildup on it because I haven't cleaned it in a bit, although it really only needs to be cleaned a couple times per year. But this is one place that you wouldn't normally clean it out with this. You would gently clean it out with this thing that comes with it. So you can't really very easily just... On some stoves, what am I trying to explain here? On some stoves, people will take off these, the eyes, I think they're called, and put a pan over top. But unless your pan fully covered this, it would just be a smoke show in here with this stove. So that is only a possibility for that. I have only cleaned the stove one time this winter on the inside. So yeah, there's some cleanup to be done here. I should have done this before cleaning the top. But I knew it needed to be cleaned, so I wanted to show you this. So this build up here, it's kind of hard to show you, but you can see it's not that deep. It's a build up here. So we have a shop vac with a metal hose and a metal bin. It's called an ash vac that we can vacuum all this out with. So I think I'll probably go grab that and do that. This here looks like rust, but it's just food that burnt on. Anyhow, there's 2 clean outs that you take out like this. This is one. This is below the oven here. And again, with the ash vac, you go in and clean that out. Put these on here so I don't lose them. The other clean out, which is hard to show you in good light here, is behind the stove with the chimney here. So we have this section of the chimney is telescoping. We have an attachment for a drill that's 30 feet long that's for cleaning chimneys. So we can just unscrew that chimney, slide it up, and then put the drill up there and then clean the whole chimney without having to get up on the roof. Much safer. And then, I mean, it all falls down and makes a big mess and you have to vacuum up and clean it up, but safer. And that has a little bit of buildup, not much, that I can also vacuum out with the ash vac. So I'm gonna get the ash vac. While I work on cleaning this out, I'm gonna answer some of your questions that I actually got a really great question in the comment section of a video with a whole bunch of questions that kind of summed up what other people ask me all the time. So what is the general difference between cooking with propane versus wood? Well, propane is fast and hot and instant, and it actually takes more effort than you think to boil water on a wood cook stove. I'm going to talk a bit more about that with wood in last, but I'm going to talk about some other things first if that isn't too confusing for you. So did it take a long time to adjust to not just turning knobs? Yes and no. It did, because you'd be like, oh, I want to make tea, but actually like this stove is not hot enough for this water to boil, or this, I want to bake cookies, but actually my oven's only at 250 and it can't just instantly get to 350. I have to work at it. However, cooking can get boring, right? Like you got to cook and bake for your family every day, 3 meals a day, so much cooking. And using a wood cook stove changes that up for me. Same way that using the Blackstone griddle outside changes things up. It keeps it interesting, it keeps it different. In winter we can use the wood stove. In summer we can use the Blackstone. We still have a regular propane oven for shoulder seasons, and it just really helps make things more interesting. So for fast cooking, it is not faster than using propane. Absolutely not. It is easier to fry eggs on a propane stove, hands down. But for so many passive things like slow cooking a roast or making broth, it is just the cat's meow. That's not to say I don't fry eggs and boil water. You just have to treat your fire accordingly. And what wood you have matters so much, like so much. I'm actually going to go grab one of our oldest son's Mac. Our oldest son, Mac, is in grade 10, and he did a lab report on different wood and boiling water. So I'm going to go grab that, and I'm going to read it out to you. How long does it take different types of wood to boil water? He thought that spruce would be the fastest, but if he tried a large amount of water, then birch would boil faster. Balsam's good for small fires, but lacks the stamina of other woods. So balsam wood, he took 32 ounces and a cup of water. It took 14 minutes to boil. Black spruce, same amount, took 4 minutes and 38 seconds. He only used 8 ounces of wood, whereas the spruce, he used 12 ounces. And the birch it took 12 minutes and 15 ounces, but he also compared all the BTUs, and the BTUs of birch is way higher. So for long sustained heating, the birch is definitely the best choice, but like if you just want like a quick hot fire, spruce is the choice. So this was a super neat little lab project he did, and I super loved it because I'd been trying to use birch for like quick hot things when I should be using spruce for quick hot things and birch for like the overnight fires.
Can you yell for people?
No, we just started these conversations.
That's how you give it dramatic stress to temperature.
That's how you get fucked off and stop.
That's why you.
Kids are outside right now, and while I was in my office, they did a bunch of schoolwork with Marius, and then they filled this giant pot with the last of the pork fat. Actually, not quite. There's a few more pounds of pork fat. I don't know if I have it in me to do like a separate pot. I might just feed it to dogs and chickens because we've been dealing with that for days here. Anyhow, kids are playing outside. Marius is running some errands. I need to make tortilla dough because I'm making tacos for dinner. One thing that I was working on in my office time is planning out some workshops that I'm doing locally, not online or in person, to do with processing your own food. So butchering chickens and fermenting and canning. Just wanting to empower our local community to take control of their own food supply more, because so many people are raising animals, but they're not rendering the fat. They have gardens, but it's mostly fresh eating stuff. They're not fermenting in pressure cans. So if this sort of thing interests you in your local, keep your eye out on, well, Venison for Dinner, I will share, but also like the local Homesteaders Facebook group. If you're local, you know what I'm talking about. Best group.
Good. He says bull crap. I'm not.
Bit more. That's about half a teaspoon. Frey, what are you doing?
Oh.
Here's some black eggs.
Yeah, we'll come.
What?
They're for the milk. Leftover is lots of buttermilk as well as just skim milk, and this is a really great supplement to our chickens and pigs and turkeys feed. So this is not a waste, friends, dumping this at livestock. This is a savings on the feed bill. So I have ground pork and ground moose, I think it was, that I mixed together to make a really nice moist meatball. I don't always do this, but I have some ground pork that I'm wanting to move out of the freezer. So I decided to go for kind of a Greek-inspired wrap versus traditional tacos with, chili powder, salsa cheese. So I basically mixed every green herb in this drawer, going off of a Greek seasoning mix. Bit of cinnamon, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper. And then I mixed in yogurt and sourdough breadcrumbs to make a really nice moist mixture. Then I let it sit to all soak up while I made tzatziki. This is the rest of the lard. We decided to just wait until the pot had space and then add it in. And earlier you saw me labeling all the jars from yesterday's lard rendering fiasco. Not a fiasco, just never ending, but we finally are done. And I did I think 47 quarts of tallow and lard. Tzatziki is a must if one is doing Greek food. So I have freeze-dried cucumbers that I did from our garden that I mixed with yogurt, garlic, With such a nice day out, we couldn't help but cook outside. The kids wanted to eat outside, but it just wasn't quite warm enough for that, especially once we got to dinner time. We look forward to eating on the deck and cooking outside, but still having cozy mornings by the wood cook stove. Thanks for watching Venison for Dinner, friends. If you like this, make sure you subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you again on the next video.